Happy Friday, team. We're going to continue reading chapter 4 of Roll of Thunder. This is the part where TJ is gossiping with the Logan children, and he's going to spill some more tea. And then you'll see what happens after this. All right. With chicken feathers, TJ laughed. Can you imagine that? But why? Asked little man, forgetting our ploy. This time, TJ did not slow down. I don't know if y'all's little ears should hear this, but it seems he called Mr. Jim Lee Barnett a lie. He's the man who runs the mercantile down in Strawberry. Mr. Tatum's supposed to done told him that he ain't ordered up all them things Mr. Barnett done charged him for. Mr. Barnett said he had all them things Mr. Tatum ordered written down, and when Mr. Tatum asked to see that list of his, Mr. Barnett says, "You calling me a liar, boy?" And Mr. Tatum says, "Yes, sir, I guess I is." That done it. Then it wasn't 'cause of the bus, Christopher John blurted out. Bus? What's a bus got to do with it? Nothing, said Stacy quickly. Nothing at all. Well, if anybody said them nightman was down in here 'cause some stupid bus, they crazy, said TJ authoritatively. 'Cause my information come direct from Miss Claire Thompson, who's seen Mr. Tatum herself. You sure? Stacy asked. Sure, I'm sure. When do I ever say anything when I ain't sure? Stacy smiled with relief. Come on, let's get the milk. All of us went into the kitchen, then to the bedrooms to get our coats. When we got outside, TJ remembered that he had left his cap by the fire and ran back to retrieve it. As soon as we were alone, Little Man asked, Stacy, you really think them nightmen put tar and feathers all over Mr. Tatum? I suppose so, said Stacy. Little Man frowned, but it was Christopher John who spoke, whispering shrilly as if a stray morning ghost might overhear. If they ever find out about the bus, you think they gonna put tar and feathers all over us? Little Man frowned deep and he observed gravely. If they did, we'd never get clean. Cassie, says Christopher John, his eyes wide. Well, was you real scared when you seen them? Little Man shivered and with excitement. I wish I could have seen them. Well, I don't, declared Christopher John. In fact, I wish I never heard of no nightmare or buses or secrets or holes in the road. And with that outburst, he stuffed his pudgy hands into his thin jacket, pressed his lips firmly together, and refused to say another word. After a few moments, Stacy said, What's keeping TJ? The rest of us shrugged, then followed Stacy back into the porch into Mama's room. As we entered, TJ jumped. He was standing at the desk with Mama's W.E.B. Du Bois, the Negro, in his hands. That don't look like your cap, said Stacy. Aw, man, I ain't done nothing. Just looking at Miss Logan's history book, that's all. I'm mighty interested in that place called Egypt she been telling us about and them black kings that was ruling back then. Still talking, he casually put down the book and picked up his cap. All four of us looked accusingly at TJ, and he halted. Say, what is this? What's the meaning of sneaking up on me like that anyway? Y'all think I was looking for them test questions or something? Shoot, a fella think you didn't trust him. Then thrusting his arm around Stacy's shoulders, he shouted, Friends gotta trust each other, Stacy, 'cause ain't nothing like a true friend. And with those words of wisdom, he left the room, leaving us to wonder how he managed to slink out of this one. The Monday after his arrival, Mr. Morrison had moved into the deserted tenant shack that stood in the south pasture. It was a sorry mess, that house. Its door hung sadly from a broken hinge. Its porch floorboards were rotted, and its one-room interior was densely occupied by rats, spiders, and other field creatures. But Mr. Morrison was a quiet man, almost shy, and although Mama had offered him lodging in our house, he preferred the old shack. Mama sensed that Mr. Morrison was a private person, and she did not object to the move, but she did send the boys and me to the house to help clean it. Little Man, Christopher John, and I took to Mr. Morrison immediately and had no objections to the cleaning. Anybody who was a friend of Papa's was all right in our book. Besides, when he was near, nightmen and burnings and midnight tirings faded into a hazy distance. But Stacy remained aloof and had little to do with him. After the cleaning, I asked Mama if Christopher John, Little Man, and I could go visit Mr. Morrison, but she said no. But Mama, I want to know more about him. I explained. I just want to know how come he's so big. You know about as much as you need to know, she decided. And long as Mr. Morrison stays here, that's his house. If he wants you down there, he'll ask you. Don't know how come y'all want to go down there no way, Stacy said moodily when Mama was out of hearing. 'Cause we like him. That's why, I answered, tired of his distant attitude toward Mr. Morrison. Then, as discreetly as I could, I said, "What's the matter with you, boy, not liking Mr. Morrison?" Stacy shrugged. "I like him all right. Don't act that way." Stacy looked away from me. "Don't need him here. All that work he doing, I could have done it myself." "Ah, you couldn't have done no such thing. Besides, I looked around to be certain that Big Ma and Mama were no were not near. Besides, I'm sorry, let me start over. "Ah, you couldn't have done no such thing. Besides, I looked around to be certain that Big Ma and Mama were not near. Besides, Papa didn't just bring him here to do no work. You know how come he really here." Stacy turned towards me haughtily. "I could have taken care of that too." I rolled my eyes at him, but held my peace. I didn't feel like a fight, and as long as Mr. Morrison was within hollering distance of the back porch, it made little difference to me what Stacy thought he could do. "I sure wouldn't want that big old man staying at my place," said TJ on the way to school. "I bet you he'd get mad one time. He'd take an old little man and swing him over that tree yonder like he wasn't nothing but a twig." He laughed, then little man set his lips and stared angrily up. Course, I could probably about do that myself. "Couldn't neither," denied little man. "Hush, man," said Stacy. "TJ, leave man alone." "Aw, I ain't bothering him. Little man's my buddy, ain't you, man?" Little man scowled but didn't reply. TJ turned back to Stacy. "You ready for that history test?" "Hope so," said Stacy. "But I keep forgetting them dates." "Bet you I could help you if you be nice." "How? You worse than I am about the dates." TJ grinned, then slyly put a folded sheet of paper from his pocket and handed it to Stacy. Stacy unfolded it, looked at it curiously, then frowned. "You planning on cheating?" "Well, nah, I ain't planning on it," said TJ seriously. "Just if I gotta." "Well, you ain't gonna," said Stacy, tearing the paper in two. "Hey, what's the matter with you, man?" cried TJ, grabbing for the paper. But Stacy turned his back to him and tore the paper into bits, then deposited them in the gully. "Man, that ain't right. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do you that way." "Maybe not," replied Stacy, "but at least this way you won't get in trouble." TJ mumbled, "If failing ain't trouble, I don't know what." All right, I'm going to finish off right there. Make sure you answer your questions carefully and let me know if you need anything. Bye.